Hello, Fadi. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm also doing good. How's the weather in your city?
The weather is nice. Everything's okay.
Okay. Welcome to our conference. And we will start the conference soon as once our every participant will join the conference.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Hello, Daria. Good morning. Are you there? Daria, are you there? Yeah. Hello, Amir. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm fine, I'm fine.
And how's the weather in your city?
Sorry?
How is the weather in your city?
It's good weather, it's not bad.
Okay, good. Welcome to our conference.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
When do we start the presentation? Is that just around 9 a.m.? Not 9, sorry. 8:30 is expected around then.
Hmm.
Good morning, colleagues.
Good morning, Daria. How are you?
I'm good. What about you?
I'm also good. And how's the weather in your city?
Good, good.
Okay, welcome to our conference.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. कर दो अभी participants नहीं आए सारे कर दो Okay, everyone. Welcome to Eurasia Research International Conference. Please allow me a moment to introduce Eurasia Research to you in a nutshell.
If you believe you can move the highest mountains, cross the greatest oceans, and walk across the water You feel defeated, falling on your knees and looking up for some hope tonight. You try to stand up, but you throw your hands up, like you no longer have the strength to fight. You've seen too many sunsets, too many days, ending in the darkest night. But on your own, you'll never know, you'll never know. If you believe you can move the highest mountains, cross the greatest oceans, walk across the water. Believe you can move the highest mountains, cross the greatest oceans, walk across the water. If you believe, they say that all you need is faith, but it's almost like you lost your way. Took a few wrong turns, took a few breaks, falling behind now looking for grace. Cause you need someone to lift you up, yeah, make right all the things you've done. Cause on your own you'll never know, you'll never know. If you believe you will move the highest mountains, cross the greatest oceans, walk across the water. Believe you can move the highest mountains, cross the greatest oceans, walk across the water. If you believe, if you believe, you can do anything, you can do anything, you can do anything if you believe. If you believe you can move the highest mountains, cross the greatest oceans, walk across the water. Believe you can move the highest mountains, cross the greatest oceans, walk across the water. If you believe.
Okay, everyone, welcome to Eurasia Research online live conference, 20th June 2025. It's 6:30 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time. Let me start. Introduction. With our more than 1 million satisfied members and associates spread across the globe, Eurasia Research is a scholarly association who have been working for nearly a decade. Eurasia Research has organized several successful international conferences, workshops, and training programs at various reputed institutions and grand venues. Eurasia has been tirelessly working for research world and have not stopped their endeavors even during COVID era, and have presented research community with online platform which was safe and convenient method to continue their passion. Objective. We are an international community of researchers, practitioners, students, and educationists who aim to bring together worldwide researchers and professionals, encourage intellectual development, and to create opportunities for networking and collaboration. These objectives are achieved through academic networking, meetings, conferences, workshops, projects, research, publications, academic awards, and scholarships. Some of our key highlights. We provide scholarship to deserving candidates to promote students and research scholars to participate in the international conference. Young researcher scholarship is provided in the form of a full registration fee waiver with scholarship names page. We have vast experience of publishing papers for more than 7 years. Our associated journals publish original papers review papers, conceptual framework, analytical and stimulation models, case studies, empirical research, technical notes, and book reviews. We cater to more than 30 plus themes in the area of teaching and education and have registered ISSN and have following renowned indexing. Google Scholar, cross-check, authenticate, cross-ref, the Keepers Registry, Script, Portico, Road, Directory of Open Access Scholarly Resources, OAIPMH registered data provided, PKP index. We will soon be applying for Scopus 2. We have a wide network of 100 plus internationally acclaimed keynotes across the globe who share their knowledge and guidance with our participants with open hands. We have a large number of committee members and advisors who support us and guide us through their expert opinions and decision-making capabilities. We could not have thought of reaching here without them. We also encourage our participants to connect with more than 15K plus followers on our social media platform where they can share their research and interests. Join our Facebook group and be a part of the discussions by researchers and academicians. We also have several collaborations with universities, colleges, and institutes to better serve all interested and like-minded intellectuals. With great enthusiasm and pride, we would like to request our participants to enjoy the benefits of our lifetime membership in just USD 60. We have over 10,000 plus members from across the globe. We would like to share some of our past participants' experience with you. Thank you for your patience and valuable time. Moving forward with the conference. Eurasia Research Online Live International Conference 20th June 2025. Event is about to start. Please wait. We would begin. Today we have presentations and participants from 8 countries around the world. We are broadcasting this conference on Facebook Live on multiple pages of Eurasia Research. The links for the live sessions are shared in the chat box. Hello everyone, I'm your host in this conference, myself Kajal Sharma. Now we would like to present the Terra president in the conference. So let me move ahead. Lini M. Sally, PhD, Higher Education Executive, Adjunct Professor, Boston College, Chestnut Hill, MA, USA. So let me share some glimpse of our president.
I am.
Miss Kajal, I think we can't hear you.
Dr. Lincelli, and I'm currently the Dean of Graduate and Professional Studies at LaSalle University, as you can see in my background. And I'm currently the president of Terra Eurasia, and I've been involved for multiple years with the organization as a participant, as a speaker, as a keynote speaker, and as the president. And I'm very proud of the organization because it brings people from all over the world globally together to talk about issues that affect higher education and other areas in education and other areas, nonprofits, etc. And we talk about issues and successes, and together we can make it better and make it always be improving. And I always say ever evolving. COVID was very difficult for all of us. And being in administration, I had to assist faculty in an immediate way to pivot from a face-to-face delivery of classroom time to electronic and Zoom and so forth. Many of these faculty members had no idea about the Zoom platform or any other learning delivery modules, the way that they could be delivered. So the administration really had to step in and pivot quickly. And I think overall, and talking to my colleagues across the globe, I feel like they did a wonderful job doing that. I have to say, I don't think it was the same for the students, which is sad. Preschool all the way up to PhD, I think it was difficult. I think it was less difficult for graduate students in master's and doctoral programs because many of those were already online. So there wasn't much of a pivot, but I'm going to say pre-K through the baccalaureate is very difficult, and teachers and administrators were amazing. And I do think our students that lived through that need extra attention, and the research is bearing that out right now. And that's our jobs to try to find ways to make sure that we fill those gaps. I'm going to be very honest. I'm a people person. I'm a relationship person. I thrive on making real eye contact and making real connections with people. I much prefer an on-the-ground conference, a face-to-face conference. I did the keynote for this organization in London last April. I'm doing it again in London. I'm making that commitment to make that trip because I so deeply believe in the relationships and the bonds that are formed, as well as just during the conference, getting to know people and seeing different perspectives rather than just seeing it on a screen. Encourage them to attend a Eurasia conference in general, because I believe in the organization. I'm president of the organization right now. I would encourage them to attend. If they couldn't attend in person for financial or schedule or whatever reason, I would encourage them to attend, but I would encourage them to attend in person first, but always, and I continue to do that, encourage them to attend. Nothing but good things to say about the conference pre-COVID, and last year I did not attend an online conference, so I can't comment on that during COVID, but I can comment on pre-COVID and my experience last year in London. I truly find that the way it's organized in groups and the group work that goes on is different than just to sit and listen, which is what attracted me and why I said yes to becoming president. It's organized in a way where it encourages that collegiality and that sharing of ideas and that sharing not only of the research that you present, but in small groups to broaden that discussion. So the way the conference is organized is well done. Often I can't stay for the whole time because of my busy schedule, but I do stay for the one day that I keynote, and the participation is phenomenal. And other conferences that I've attended, as well as done keynotes, as well as done breakout sessions, they don't organize them that way. I organize my breakout sessions and keynotes in other organizations that way, because I feel from my learning styles research that I've done and published on, the best way people learn.
Thank you, Lini and Shelley, for your fabulous presentation. Now, we would like to invite our eminent speaker for her presentation, and our eminent speaker is Enyor Azatbek, Higher School of Humanities, Sarsin East, Kazakhstan University, UST, Kamenogorsk, Kazakhstan. Okay, let me move ahead.
Hello, good morning, Anur. Good morning. Hello. Thank you for joining this chat session for Eurasia Research. Thank you for you too. How are you doing today? Very well. Okay. Thanks. Okay. Okay, so we will move ahead with the chat session now. And first of all, I would like to ask you a little bit about your academic profile, your brief bio, and a little bit about your research that you presented at the conference.
Hey, my name is Eurasia Research. I'm from Kazakhstan. I'm a Master of Pedagogical Sciences. Currently, I'm studying philology, Kazakh philology at Department Kazakh Russian and Journalism at in Sersen Amandrov, East Kazakhstan University. My presentation was about teaching method of my research topic is teaching the first stories of Mukhtar Awazov in high school. Mukhtar Awazov was a famous talented writer in our nation, and he was a scientist, doctor of philology, and also famous people all over the world. And he's famous with his epic novel, The Way of Abai, which is translated to many different languages all over the world. And my research work deals with the methods of teaching methods of short stories of Mukhtar Awazov. And I explored and investigated many different methods and the technologies of teaching stories of Mukhtar Awazov in higher education. And also, I compared them with foreign literature, and also I worked with philosophical and psychological, also literary sides of my research work.
Okay, thank you for your lovely intro and telling us about your research. It will really help the participants, future participants of our conference. So my next question is, what was your motivation during COVID era to carry out your research and participate in the conference as well?
Okay, during the pandemic days in COVID, we had to stay at home and we locked down and we couldn't go out anywhere. And as for me, I'm a mother and I have three young children and I had to stay at home. And also I do my research work online. I have participated in different scientific conferences and I had my classes online with Zoom meetings and I think it was very convenient and useful for me to work online. And I could do my research work with the help of websites, different and ebooks and other materials was available in that time. And we always keep in touch with our research supervisors, and they gave us many different scientific tasks.
So, all right, moving ahead with the next question. What is your opinion on attending an online conference rather than a physical conference?
From my point of view, I prefer online conferences rather than physical because, first of all, it's very convenient and you can arrange the time when you are busy, for example, especially for women who have a family, it's very convenient and useful. And that time you couldn't go travel overseas, and that's why you can just arrange your time and keep in touch in by online conferences. And wherever you are in your time, you can keep in touch and meet with your, for example, professors in online conferences.
Okay, so my next question is, would you suggest encouraging your friends and colleagues to attend the conference online?
Of course, I encourage and recommend my colleagues and friends to online international conferences because it's very useful and convenient when they do research works. It develops their research skills, and when they are busy, they can choose such kind of research, international research conferences. I think if they have time, they can join. They can join anytime.
Okay. So, what is your positive feedback about the conference that you attended recently?
I liked your conference. Everything, all the procedures is organized very well. Also, it was very great chance for me to exchange with experiences with other researchers all over the world. And also, we can enjoy the presentations also, and then we share with our opinions, and it was very a great experience for me. And in future, I think I will definitely will join you, and also I will participate. Your conference.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you so much for sharing your experience with us, and thank you for attending this chat session also. We are honored to have you, and it will be a great pleasure to see you at our future conferences as well. Thank you so much, and have a great day now. Thank you.
Thank you for you too.
Thank you.
So much. Goodbye.
Bye.
So I'd like to kick off today with our first keynote for the conference. I'd like to welcome Emilia Bell. Emilia is the Manager, Research and Digital Services at Murdoch University Library.
Okay, great. Thanks to our eminent speaker. Now, let me move ahead towards the conference. Our conference schedule is session 1, keynote talk, session 2, team activity and photo session, session 3, technical talk. Rename your Zoom account with your full name in English. This will help us to record your presence. You may ask your questions related to the presentation in the chat section while the presentations are going on. All the certificates, receipts, and proceedings will be sent to the participants within a week on their mailed IDs. The proceedings will include all the full papers and abstracts accepted for the conference. Moving ahead with the publication process. The publication process starts once the registration process is complete. The author needs to send their papers, consent forms, and reviewer details on the email ID convener@eurasiaresearch.info. The abstracts and papers received will be first published in the conference's book of proceedings online. Only the selected papers will be moved in our publication timeline. The review reports will be sent to the author once the review process is over. The final stage of publication starts after receiving the revised papers from the authors. Please note that the publication process takes around 15 to 20 days after the conference dates if all the editorial guidelines are followed within the given deadlines. Let's welcome to our first keynote speaker of the conference, Diana Noverini, State University of Jakarta, topic Natural, Social Sciences and Technology. Diana Noverini is working with the Ministry of Research and Technology as part of the Ministry of Education and Cultural Indonesia. She is a lecturer in public sector reform program assignment, which is ISO 9001-2008, and researcher at State University of Jakarta, Indonesia since 2008, and granted 15th years of profession badge from Indonesian government respectfully. Her accomplishments are including graduate and member of Young Leader Program JICA 2010, the Indonesian Ministry of Research and Technologies Grant Year 2017, the Chair Associate of SICSSAM Korean Conference 2017, and the Indonesian Ministry of Research and Technologies Grant Year 2024. And Indonesian Ministry of Education and Cultural in Public Society Devotion Grant Year 2024.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, good morning.
I would like to congratulate all the participants and the committee for the achievements with Eurasia Research Berlin International Conference 2025. Furthermore, the presentation will be conducted by the committee because I have sent you the video presentation. Thank you. Eurasia Research Berlin International Conference, June 2025. I would like to present our research paper. Title: Improving the Handling of Humanitarian Disaster in the Indonesian Ring of Fire by Utilizing the Detection of Output from Banten Underwater Mountain. This research made by Diana Noviarini, Eko Arif Saifuddin, Aulia Firlina, Raihan Nabila Amania, Dara Harja, and Ahmad Yamani. The phenomenon of this research are, as reported on October 9, 2022, an earthquake with a magnitude of 5.5 occurred in the southern waters of Banten, which was felt as far as Jakarta. Indonesia is known to have 13 megathrust earthquake source segments and more than 295 active faults earthquake source segments caused by its location in the Ring of Fire area. The location in Indonesia where of the world's tectonic plates meet, namely Australia, Eurasia, and the Pacific, causes Indonesia to often experience earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. Megathrust earthquakes are earthquakes that originate from subduction zones and even where one of the Earth's tectonic plate is pushed under another tectonic plate. The force of the two plates that continue to move forward and rub against each other causes a very powerful earthquake under the sea and has the potential to cause tsunami. Data from the height of the Earthquake and Tsunami Center of the Meteorology, Climatology, and Geophysics Agency, (METG), states that the potential for a megathrust earthquake can be seen from the seismic gap in the megathrust zone of the Sunda Strait and Mentawai Seberut. The existence of fault and volcanic activity in the Indonesian region, in addition to providing many natural resource gifts, including soil fertility, also contributes to the formation of the risk of several types of disaster. Volcanic eruption disasters, where there are sedimentary rocks or sediments, which are the result of volcanic eruption, deposits in the form of mixture of gravel, so that on steep slopes, landslides are easy to occur. The distribution of rocks and faults in Indonesia that have the potential to cause earthquakes and tsunamis can be seen in the Indonesian geological map that has been compiled by the Geological Agency. You can see this is the tectonic map of the Indonesian archipelago and its surroundings, starting from the tip of Sumatra and end at the tip of West Irian. The existence of fault and volcanic activity in the Indonesian region, in addition to providing many natural resource gifts, including soil fertility, also contributes to the formation of the risk of several types of disaster. The phenomenon of this research are the morphology of the southern Banten region is generally plains, relative plains, and relative steep hills. The area is generally composed of tertiary rocks in the bottom of sedimentary rocks, sandstone, claystone, siltstone, limestone, and volcanic debris rocks. There are quaternary deposits in the form of coastal alluvial deposits, vapor alluvial, swamp alluvial, and young volcanic debris rocks. Tectonic activity in the deposits that occur causes the formation of a series of volcanoes, volcanic along the island of Sumatra, Java, Bali, Nusa Tenggara, Northern Sulawesi, Maluku to Papua. The series of volcanic is part of a series of volcanoes along the Asia Pacific, namely the Southern Pacific series. In general, rocks formed in the western region of Indonesia are dominated by Cenozoic rocks, ranging from Paleogene to Quaternary, formed between 66 million years ago until now. The research implications are, number one, the discovery of new minerals and potential sedimentary rocks can be used to map marine and land deposits to develop regional economic potential in expanding this territory, even though there is regional authority and regulation. In regional economics studies and development and economic growth using mineral deposits and sedimentary rocks can be used to expand regional areas and develop basic models for regional economic development by dividing the economy into two sectors, the base sector and the non-base sector. Number two, the inevitability of developing growth and economic models in expanding regional areas always results in conflicts over the use of mineral resources and potential for marine and land deposits. They are the same in the nearest surrounding areas. Number three, regional civilization conflicts can result in the depletion of mineral deposits and forced authorities to find new mineral deposits using regional demographic typologies. The results of this activity are to provide a significant contribution to the growth and development of the regional economy through the expansion of regional potential and the discovery of sedimentology, material technology devices that can be used widely and generally. Ultimately, disaster events and disaster management aspects are humanitarian operations, so that the determinant factors need to be developed, trained, and applied. Factors that are often problematic are communication, information, coordination, and cooperation, especially if it involves various institutions or community components. The approach that needs to be known, understood, and implemented with humanitarian principles is a system approach, which is synergistic and energetic effort from institutions such as State University of Jakarta, assigned to handle disasters, and other supporting institutions such as Eurasia Research, so that it becomes a strong teamwork and network. Figure 3, login menu of application system of the feature disaster detection software will be like this. The improving of early warning system currently the intellectual property rights being registered to the Intellectual Property and Rights Department of Indonesia. Activities to provide disaster prevention and handling solutions include in this software, number one, outdoor sedimentation survey activities. Number two, designing lava detection tools. Number three, increasing the literacy of information technology in the Banten community by 90% in accessing underwater volcanic lava detection tools. Number four, partner groups are able to create content for underwater volcanic lava detection tools regarding the honorary of State University of Jakarta and Eurasia Research in Berlin International Conference. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our presentation of the research. Any questions? And regarding to this research, can we send to emails through Eurasia Research or back to us to the researchers from State University of Jakarta. Thank you for your attention, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Diana, for your
Thank you, ladies and
Research
gentlemen,
services.
for your attention.
They are also a PhD candidate and non-executive director working across the higher education and not-for-profit sectors. As a PhD candidate at Curtin University, Emilia explores open knowledge diplomacy. Their research intersects knowledge production, open scholarship, and libraries. Emilia also serves on the boards of the Australian Library and Information Association and Ballet Without Borders. Additionally, they are president and co-founder of the Alliance of Neurodiversity and Disability in Glamour Professions Australia, As a proud disabled, neurodivergent, and queer person, Emilia's lived experience is a catalyst for community building and meaningful change. Thank you, Emilia. I'll leave it up.
Thank you so much, Diana, for your fabulous presentation. Now,
You're welcome.
let's we move forward with the conference. And our second keynote speaker is Dr. Shahira EI Elfi, Higher Colleges of Technology. Topic: Rehumanizing Education, Aligning Purpose, People and Progress. Dr. Shahira Elfi is an assistant professor at the Higher Colleges of Technology in the United Arab Emirates. She brings a well-rounded perspective to her work in higher education through her academic scholarship and practical industry experience. She holds 2 doctoral degrees, namely a doctorate in business administration and a PhD in educational leadership, which enabled her to capitalize on her corporate experience towards educational development. Dr. Shahira has taught and mentored students in various learning environments for over 15 years, through which she has been always striving to create an engaging and positive learning experience for students. Before shifting to academia, she invested a decade working in the banking industry and corporate training, which has influenced her practical and student-centered approach to learning. Her research publications focus on marketing of higher education, learning analytics, and service management to better understand and adapt to a consistently changing environment and learning landscapes. Dr. Shahira is also involved in student development outside the classroom. She mentors students as part of the Social Business Impact Club and has participated in several collaboration initiatives with the industry. She has been recognized with several awards, including the Excellence in Applied Research Award 2016, the Outstanding Contribution Award 2017, and the Exceptional Faculty Member Recognition 2020. Dr. Shahira is a passionate educator who strives to contribute to shaping learning environments that are academically sound, practical, and impactful, whether she is teaching, conducting research, presenting at conferences, or mentoring students.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Ms. Kajal, for your introduction, and thanks to Eurasia Research for inviting me as a keynote speaker. And of course for Tara. It's really a pleasure to be here. I would appreciate if Eurasia team would conduct or play the video presentation. At the same time, participants are more than welcome to ask any questions after the presentation, or please write your questions also at the chat as the presentation is going. I would be very happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, now moving ahead with the conference. Let's proceed towards our team building activities. Sometimes we miss the opportunity of connection and linkage with fellow participants of the conference. This team activity is to encourage interaction among all the participants. One by one, we will share the views and solutions on the topic of discussion, and also we will be conducting a photo session during the same.
If you believe you can move.
That's the only reason why you are not able to speak in English fluently, because कभी भी अगर आपको इंग्लिश में बात करना होता है ना, तो आपको ये सिखाया गया है बस ज्यादा बात करो, जितना ज्यादा आप बात करोगे आप
I was 27 years old. I left a very demanding job in management consulting for a job that was even more demanding, teaching. I went to teach seventh graders math in the New York City public schools. And like any teacher, I made quizzes and tests. I gave out homework assignments. When the work came back, I calculated grades. What struck me was that IQ was not the only difference between my best and my worst students. Some of my strongest performers did not have stratospheric IQ scores. Some of my smartest kids.
Excuse me, Ms. Kajal, I think this is not the keynote speech. In case it is not handy, I can share it from my side.
Sure, they're hard.
Would you prefer if I share it from my side?
Yeah, I'm sharing.
Okay.
We will focus on 5 things. Good morning, everyone. Truly delighted to speak at this year's Building Environment Conference on Teaching, Education, and Learning. I'm quite passionate about sharing with you transformative vision that I've always been passionate about, which is rehumanizing education. Let's imagine together a beautifully designed compass that's elegant, polished, frames, but it just points out to one direction. So no matter how skillfully we are following the directions of this compass, we will end up further from our destination, most likely this one. So today, let's ask ourselves, what if we manage to realign education to serve people rather than process? That's the heart of what we will be sharing together, which is rehumanizing education. We will focus on 5 key points. First of all is the commonly cited challenges in higher education, and then we will move to sharing meaning of rehumanizing education. We will be revisiting the purpose of education, which has been for many long years. We will also have a closer look at key stakeholders, people, students, our people, educators, and of course people in the community are also. We will have a closer look. And we will also be sharing together how Google has starting with the challenges of higher education, be very high human cost of this culture. These 7 points, they are not the first organizations, nor this list of exhaustive. But these are the most common decided challenges in higher education institutions. Starting from first the very high level of stress and depression students. I think educators are not in a better situation, so facing burnout, job burnout, fragmentation of education purpose, where measurement and accountability have been very dominant to the extent it's distracting administrators, educators, and everyone from the main purpose of education. Curriculum irrelevance and irrelevance in terms of relevance to real life, irrelevance to students' socio-emotional needs. Irrelevance could take several forms, including, for example, being overly theoretical. And this would make it extremely difficult for students to engage and for educators to get students to engage. Employability gaps in somehow where practitioners have been putting a lot of holes, where student skills are somehow not aligned with the job market skills. Commodification of education, in which students are framed as customers. The educators are supposed to make customers happy, as compared to making students more comfortable, students more emotionally stable.
Tahira?
Yes.
Please,
Okay. We
please,
will, of course,
yeah,
happily,
please
I will share
share
my
your
screen and I will
presentation
take
live,
it.
yes.
Of course, I will take it from there. Sure.
Okay.
Ms. Kajal, does it show now?
Yes, Shahira.
Okay, thank you. So basically what have been presented so far are the challenges that I think the sound is echoing. These 7 points, they are not applicable.
Actually, the video is not audible properly to the participants.
Okay, so what we can do is I'm going to get a version without the video recording, and then I will put my voice accordingly. So
Okay.
let me share another version that without the voice recording, and let us proceed accordingly.
Okay, let us proceed with the
Yes, of course. Yes, I'm very mindful of the time as well. So here it is. So briefly, the whole presentation is revolving around rehumanizing education. We want to bring back the core values, the core human values to humanize education one more time. There are several challenges that calls for such rehumanization. Rehumanizing actually, it's in a way to overcome what has been labeled by educational scholars as performativity. It's very much into so much being focused on appearance rather than content, box ticking, and all of such aspects or symptoms, let us call symptoms of performativity. So if we managed in education to rehumanize, and if we notice there is a re there, because it's not something new. There is a complete humanistic approach of education that has been there from the 60s. We have just been more drifting into commercializing the whole thing and into commodification of education that led us to think of matrices and parameters that led to a less humane aspects of education. So if we manage to restore human values at the core of higher education through many things, of course, because we have an entire ecosystem that we are operating in, but at least some aspects can be addressed, such as the relationships. We need to look at students not as customers. Students are not customers. They are not paying for a service or buying something from a supermarket. They are actually co-creators of the value that we are offering them. Under such paradigms, a lot of policies, a lot of interactions would be quite different. Reconnecting again to the moral and social purposes of education, and this will certainly also be the framework on which we are putting our matrices, resetting our purposes, and resetting our policies and systems. And finally, also, there are issues that, though very important, they have been forgotten, such as the mental health, the well-being of students, the well-being of the faculty, the well-being of the admin staff. So, and this is why we need to look into the purpose again, to revisit the purpose of education, the people, and the progress. What should progress look like? I'm not going to dwell into purpose of education. They are very well cited in scholarly research. And if we look at them, some of them would look into the economic aspect, some of them would look into human development, some of them would focus on citizenship and justice. So, however, if we look at all of these, they have shared goals. Which is to have a holistic human being that can have a positive impact on the society. So we need to address the entire education system and ecosystem as well, because higher educational institutions cannot perform in isolation. to address it as being responsible for developing a whole human being. So this is in terms of the purpose, contribution to society and community. These are things that we should not lose sight from. One thing which I really feel for it very much, which is a strong rejection to a purely instrumental view. We always look at education solely for students to have a salary or to have a job and to have, in fact, it has a much further purpose than that. It's beyond just getting a job or beyond just getting a salary. So from this perception or from this orientation, we need to address education. So this is the purpose part. As of the people part, of course, we have a lot of stakeholders when it comes to education, but for this presentation, we will be basically focusing on students and focusing on educators and people in the community as well. Also, we need to consider. If we have a close look into the state of students and their experience, of course, I'm not generalizing, but this is what has been cited in research. It might resonate with some of you. So among the things that have been well cited, that students have been going under a lot of stress and anxiety from academic pressures, from assessments, from a lot of factors are affecting them and affecting their well-being. Looking at students as data points and assigning a huge weight on their grades. A human being is, or the value of a human being is not just grades. Grades are important. They are reflective of some aspects of a person. However, it doesn't really fully provide a full picture of a student. These are many of the factors that have been well cited. And this is somehow partly reflective of the as-is or the current experience of some students in higher education. This is the as-is of educators. Job burnout have been very much reported and cited in scholarly research. Culture of surveillance, where a very high level of monitoring and matrices that are putting educators under microscopic verification is actually taking a lot of their autonomy, taking a lot of their potential innovation. And at the same time, it can really detach them from the actual purpose for which they are there, because they are kind of always under surveillance in terms of all the tasks that they are doing. So this is a set. Many of educators also, they feel they are undervalued and not sufficiently recognized. So what are we advocating? We are advocating some aspects. However, again, it's not a comprehensive list of things that magically, if we do, the lives and the experiences of students will change, and the lives and experiences of educators will change. So one of the things that we really need to do in our curriculums, in our interactions with students, is to connect them more and more and more with real life challenges. And I'm not saying just getting them case studies and, no, but I'm talking about if we are in a higher education context, this is, and a lot of, some, of course, global universities, they are actually doing that. But we are talking about a more engaging, a more integrated collaboration between higher education institutions and the students in such institutions and the industry. Students' voice, they need to be genuinely involved in their learning. Again, they are partners, they are co-creators of their learning. We need to think of more and to measure even their mental, emotional, and social wellness, because this is, if we are talking about a whole human being, this is an integral part of their existence and of their impact to the society. These are just some suggested aspects for educators. There is also a long list of things that can be done and can enhance the conditions and the experiences of educators. However, from my point of view, I find that professional autonomy and trust is a point that I believe can address many other points. It's not that other factors are less important, but it is necessary for educators to do their job up to their expectations and up to also the expectations of educational institutions. If there are certain goals, certain expectations, and you are forcing the ways by which educators can achieve what they are supposed to achieve, this puts them under a very high level of stress in a highly human intensive environment such as education. It makes it really difficult to do what they should actually be doing and to fulfill their role effectively. These are some principles which I found either from research or either from my personal experience. They are effective. Students, again, we need to emphasize their role and their responsibility in learning. If any of us go to the doctor and the doctor writes a prescription and we decided not to take the medicine, then it is not the doctor's responsibility. It's a shared responsibility between the patient and the doctor. And the same thing with educators and students. Students, they need to understand their responsibility about their learning. Community engagement also here is to be more deeply engaged with the needs of the community and the ways by which we fulfill those needs. I had a research paper in which I have conducted a mixed method. I identified how to measure a community engagement of a higher education institutions. And this is one thing by which, something to look at actually and to consider. And quantitatively, it's found that community engagement, it directly affects the academic service quality and indirectly affects the academic service quality through, of course, student service role. If students also are engaged with the community, this will further enhance the academic service quality. These are some kind of guidelines, general guidelines. We need to look into the well-being, as mentioned previously. The cognitive and emotional development is, again, an integral part of the development of a human being and not just intellectual development. These are best practices around the world, and it's not all dark. There are a lot of positive experiences happening in different countries. Nothing wrong about benchmarking and looking at best practices. If we are looking for teacher autonomy, then we can look at Finland. If we are looking into UAE, for example, well-being. So, for example, the UAE, some universities, not all universities, have managed to incorporate well-being within their curriculum. Again, if we are looking for interdisciplinary learning, we can look at the experience of Netherlands. We cannot just adopt things as they are, because we have to accommodate the peculiarities of each country, of the national strategy of the country, of the cultural aspects of the country, of the accreditation bodies. So we can always look into such practices and adapt it and adopt what suits the context of the higher education institution. So a call to action to the entire ecosystem of education, not just individual institutions in higher education. We need to rethink the curriculum for enhancing human potential, intellectually, cognitively, and emotionally. So let's build emotionally intelligent institutions. This is necessary rather than heavily process-oriented institution. And I think this is how we can reclaim our civic responsibility. So let us reimagine quality of education through community orientation, student-centered service perception, and to redefine standards that is to make it more humanized. Thank you so much. And these are the references used for this keynote speech. And if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shahira, for your fabulous presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, we move ahead with our team activity and photo session. Let's proceed towards our team building activity. Sometimes we miss the opportunity of connection and linkage with fellow participants of the conference. This team activity is to encourage interaction among all the participants. One by one, we will share the views and solutions on the topic of discussion, and also we will be conducting a photo session during the same.
When I was 27 years old, I left a very demanding job in management consulting for a job that was even more demanding, teaching. I went to teach 7th graders math in the New York City public schools. And like any teacher, I made quizzes and tests. I gave out homework assignments. When the work came back, I calculated grades. What struck me was that IQ was not the only difference between my best and my worst students. Some of my strongest performers did not have stratospheric IQ scores. Some of my smartest kids weren't doing so well. And that got me thinking. Kinds of things you need to learn in 7th grade math. Sure, they're hard. Ratios, decimals, the area of a parallelogram. But these concepts are not impossible. And I was firmly convinced that every one of my students could learn the material if they worked hard and long enough. After several more years of teaching, I came to the conclusion that what we need in education is a much better understanding of students and learning from a motivational perspective, from a psychological perspective. In education, the one thing we know how to measure best is IQ. But what if doing well in school and in life depends on much more than your ability to learn quickly and easily? So I left the classroom and I went to graduate school to become a psychologist. I started studying kids and adults in all kinds of super challenging settings. And in every study, my question was, who is successful here and why? My research team and I went to West Point Military Academy, We tried to predict which cadets would stay in military training and which would drop out. We went to the National Spelling Bee and tried to predict which children would advance farthest in competition. We studied rookie teachers working in really tough neighborhoods, asking which teachers are still going to be here in teaching by the end of the school year. And of those, who will be the most effective at improving learning outcomes for their students? We partnered with private companies asking which of these salespeople is going to keep their jobs? Who's going to earn the most money? In all those very different contexts, one characteristic emerged as a significant predictor of success. And it wasn't social intelligence, it wasn't good looks, physical health, and it wasn't IQ. It was grit. Grit is passion and perseverance for very long-term goals. Grit is having stamina. Grit is sticking with your future, day in, day out, not just for the week, not just for the month, but for years, and working really hard to make that future a reality. Grit is living life like it's a marathon, not a sprint. A few years ago, I started studying grit in the Chicago public schools. I asked thousands of high school juniors to take grit questionnaires, and then waited around more than a year to see who would graduate. Turns out that grittier kids were significantly more likely to graduate, even when I matched them on every characteristic I could measure. Things like family income, standardized achievement test scores, even how safe kids felt when they were at school. So it's not just at West Point or the National Spelling Bee that grit matters, it's also in school, especially for kids at risk for dropping out. To me, the most shocking thing about grit is how little we know, how little science knows about building it. Every day, parents and teachers ask me, how do I build grit in kids? What do I do to teach kids a solid work ethic? How do I keep them motivated for the long run? The honest is, I don't know. What I do know is that talent doesn't make you gritty. Our data show very clearly that there are many talented individuals who simply do not follow through on this, usually unrelated or even inversely related to measures of talent. So far, the best idea I've heard about building grit in kids is something called growth mindset. This is an idea developed at Stanford University by Carol Dweck, and the belief that the ability to learn is not fixed, that it can change with your effort. Dr. Dweck has shown that when kids read and learn about the brain and how it changes and grows in response to challenge, they're much more likely to persevere when they fail because they don't believe that failure is a permanent condition. So growth mindset is a great idea for building grit, but we need more. And that's where I'm going to end my remarks because that's where we are. That's the work that stands before us. We need to take our best ideas, our strongest intuitions, and we need to test them. We need to measure whether we've been successful. We have to be willing to fail, to be
Everyone, please switch on your cameras for the photo.
Mics
Okay,
are
thank you so
unmuted.
much. Thank you so much. Let's we move forward towards the conference. So kindly, we want to call our first presenter, Fadi Abuamara, for her presentation. She is Cyber Security Program, Shenandoah University, USA. Topic: Enhancing E-commerce Security, a novel approach to credit card fraud detection. Abstract: Credit and fraud presents a risk to businesses and their clients. To combat security breaches, organizations implement different administrative and technical security controls to protect their data. With the increasing use of online transactions, organizations implement fraud detection systems. In this paper, we propose a novel credit card fraud detection system that integrates K-nearest neighbors and naive-Bayes machine learning algorithms. It educates employees on adherence to company guidelines and enhances their ability to handle cyber threats. The proposed system examines online transactions and notifies administrators of suspicious transactions to act. The system is trained and tested on a dataset of 188 transactions. It achieved 94.3% accuracy, 94.4% sensitivity, and 94.1% specificity. The research findings demonstrate effectiveness of the proposed system in improving e-commerce security and safeguarding businesses and customers from the risk.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. This is Fadi Abu Amara from the Cybersecurity Program, Shenandoah University in USA. Do you allow me to share my screen?
Fadi, please share again.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I have already recorded my presentation, so I'll go ahead and play the recording. At the end of the recording, please feel free to ask me any questions. Hello, everyone. This is Fadi Abu Amara from Shenandoah University in USA. Today, I'm going to present our research work enhancing e-commerce security, a novel approach to credit card fraud detection. These are the list of topics to be presented today. First, I'm going to discuss the challenges of credit card fraud detection, then overview of related work, then our proposed methodology, then data description and pre-processing, then the core machine learning algorithms, then the proposed integrated approach. Then I'll discuss the experimental setup and performance metrics. After that, experimental results, system implementation and features, and finally, conclusion and future work. Let's start with an introduction, the challenge of credit card fraud detection. The first point, we speak about the widespread risk in the e-commerce. As we know, credit card fraud is a significant and ongoing threat to both businesses and their clients, especially when we speak about online transactions. Why? Credit card fraud causes direct financial losses for companies and impact consumer trust and security. So the second point, we speak about combating security breaches. Organizations implement different administrative and technical controls to protect data and the transactions. These measures include policies, encryption, and the fraud detection systems to safeguard the online activities. Next, we speak about there is a necessity of detection systems. The increasing use of online transactions highlight the critical need for a robust fraud detection system. Why? As e-commerce expand, so does the potential for fraud. And finally, what's our contribution? We proposed a novel credit card fraud detection system that integrate k-nearest neighbors and naive Bayes. This system aimed to improve the e-commerce security by identifying suspicious transactions in the real time. Let's now explore an overview of related work. First, the evolution of fraud detection methods. The early methods that were used for credit card fraud detection relied on rule-based systems and statistical analysis for detection. Now, these traditional approaches struggle with evolving fraud patterns and could generate false positives. False positive indicating there is a suspicious activity. Once you investigate, it's not. So now there is a shift to machine learning. So the recent research adopt machine learning algorithms. Why? For better fraud detection. Machine learning over the advantage of learning complex and non-obvious patterns from large data sets. What are the common machine learning applications? There are different algorithms like support vector machine, decision trees, and neural networks have been widely explored. Each algorithm brings different capabilities to handle data imbalance and complex fraud behavior. So how we can overcome the individual algorithm weaknesses by integrating complementary strengths. This integration now creates more robust and adaptable detection system for diverse fraud scenarios. This is what we will see that in our research work, we integrated two different machine learning algorithms. So let me now explore the different methodology. First, integrated machine learning model. As you see, we proposed a novel system that combines both the k-nearest neighbor and the naive Bayes algorithms. This hybrid approach now leverages the strength of both algorithms, which results in enhanced fraud detection. So we speak about data-driven system. The proposed model is trained and tested on a real-world data set of e-commerce transactions. Why? This ensures the system learns from actual transaction patterns to accurately identify anomalies. Now, the system is designed to notify administrators promptly of any suspicious transaction. Why? This allows for timely human intervention to immediately address any identified fraudulent transaction. And finally, we speak about e-commerce security focus. The system core goal is to improve the security for online transactions and safeguard users, which mean it directly addresses the unique challenges of detecting fraud within the dynamic e-commerce environments. So let me now discuss the data description and pre-processing. First, dataset utilization. We utilized a dataset consist of 188 e-commerce transactions. This served like the foundational data for training and later testing the proposed model. Next, we speak about feature selection. Key transaction features were carefully chosen as input to the machine learning models, like transaction amount, time, location, and the previous transaction history. Next, we performed data cleaning. Now, the data set go through cleaning processes to address any missing values or inconsistencies. Give me example. In some transactions, for example, the location or the amount are missing. So sometimes we remove the whole transactions, or sometimes we replace that value with the mean or the median. And finally, we speak about normalization and scaling. Now, features were normalized, and when we say normalized to the range from 0 to 1. Why? To ensure consistent contribution across all organizations. Give me example. Let's say, for example, the transaction amount usually range from $1 to 10,000. Another feature, like number of items purchased, usually let's say from 1 to 20. Now, without normalization, and assume we are using KNN, the K nearest neighbor. Now, if we have $100 change in the transaction amount, this is just very normal change. It will be considered far more significant than, let's say, change 5 in the number of items purchased. So to avoid these issues, we normalized all features, all values to the scale between 0 and 1. Let's now discuss the core machine learning algorithms. First, we used k-nearest neighbors. This is a non-parametric instance-based learning algorithm that classify new points based on their neighbors. Basically, it assigns a class based on the majority vote of the k closest data points in the feature space. Let me just give you an example to understand. Let's imagine, for example, the credit card fraud detection system has been trained on a data set where past transactions are plotted based on features like transaction amount, location deviation from usual, and time of the day. Now, assume we have a new transaction, a large purchase made at 3 a.m. from unusual foreign IP address. Now, the KNN algorithm identify, let's say we choose K5, 5 closest historical transactions to this new transaction. Now, if the majority, let's say 4 out of 5 closest neighbors were previously identified as suspicious. Now we identify this new transaction as suspicious. Then we have naive Bayes. This is probabilistic classifier that apply Bayes theorem with a strong assumption of feature independence. Despite its simplicity, it is highly effective for classification tasks due to its probabilistic nature. So what we did now, we integrated both. Why? The KNN excel at capturing local data patterns. On the other side, naive Bayes is efficient for probabilistic reasoning. So integrating them allow the proposed model to benefit from both detailed local analysis and broad probabilistic understanding. Let me now explore the proposed model. First, the hybrid integration. Our system integrates KNN and naive Bayes in a mutually enhancing and combined manner. What this means? The integration method leverage the individual strength of each algorithm to compensate for their respective weaknesses, which mean this should enhance the accuracy. This unique combination is designed to significantly boost the overall accuracy of the fraud detection. How? Aims to improve the prediction rate either by cross-validating or feeding one algorithm output to be input in another algorithm. We speak about optimized error rates. The model now strives to minimize both false positive, which mean legitimate transactions are flagged as fraud, and produce false negative, which mean actual fraud transactions are missed.
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, you can't hear us? Okay, I'll just go ahead and resume.
What this means? We speak about increased robustness. This integration approach makes the system more resilient and adaptable to diverse and evolving fraud patterns. It enables the model to perform reliably even against new and sophisticated fraudulent transactions. Let me now discuss the experimental setup and performance metrics. First, the dataset itself is split. The dataset consists of 188 transactions. We divided this into training and testing. Why? This allows the proposed model to learn from one portion of the data and to be evaluated on the unseen portion of that data. Now, we assessed the system performance using accuracy, sensitivity, and specificity. Let me go over each one. Accuracy measures the overall correctness of the model prediction. It indicates the proportion of the total correct classifications out of all predictions. Then we have sensitivity or recall. This measures the system ability to correctly identify actual fraudulent transactions. Why? Transactions as non-fraudulent. Now, if we get a high rate, this means it reduces false alarms, it prevents disruptions to legitimate customer transaction and operations. So for the experimental results, first, the proposed integration system achieved an accuracy of 94.3%. This indicates a high rate of correct classifications for both fraudulent and legitimate transactions. Also, the model demonstrated 94.4% sensitivity. This highlights the system ability to detect nearly all actual fraudulent transactions. Also, the system achieved 94.1 specificity. This means that legitimate transactions are rarely flagged incorrectly. This ensures smooth e-commerce operations. So, in summary, the combined model significantly outperformed the individual KNN and naive Bayes algorithms. Now, for the system implementation and features, the proposed system is proposed as a functional application for e-commerce security environments. It can be integrated into existing online retail platforms to monitor transactions in the real time. Also, the system constantly examines incoming online transactions for any suspicious patterns. Also, administrators are immediately notified when a suspicious transaction is detected. And finally, the system can run in the background of a live e-commerce platform. Now, for conclusion and the future work, this research project successfully demonstrated a novel and effective credit card fraud detection system. The system achieved high accuracy, sensitivity, and specificity, confirming its reliability. The system helped educate employees by providing concrete examples of suspicious activities. And finally, as a future work, we need to test on larger and more diverse data sets and also exploring deep learning techniques. Okay, thank you very much all for your time, for your attention. Please let me know if you have any questions. I'll be more than happy to answer.
Thank you, Dr. Fadi, for your presentation. I was just wondering because I'm not actually in your field, but of course your topic is very much relevant, I think, to every single person on the planet who has, who conducts transactions, retail transactions. So are fraud detector systems, they are directly used in any context, or they have to be tested in every single context they are being used in? It's just I'm trying to understand.
Okay, thank you. Actually, when you use machine learning or artificial intelligence, you have to first train the model, similar like ChatGPT. So you have to train the model so it can recognize, okay, this is legitimate transaction, this is suspicious. Now, after the training, you go to test it. And even the training and testing is something continuous. Like even look now at the large language models, they keep training them. How? Actually, since 2 years until today, ChatGPT, for example, is still learning from the user interactions.
True, thank you.
And yes, and why we need to continuous even training them? Because the attackers on the other side keep developing their techniques. So it's not like one-time training and that's it.
Thank you so much, Fadi, for the fabulous presentation.
You're welcome.
Question. If I may ask, do you conduct research, behavioral research at the consumer side or the user side, or because obviously you are in the area of security and cybersecurity, most of the researchers, they are very much into testing the data sets, and so who takes care of the user side, of the behavioral side of things?
Okay, thanks for.
I mean, which domain? I'm sorry, my question needs to be more accurate. Which domain or which subdomain in your field takes care of the behavioral aspects? Because you as technical experts, you might be taking care of the technical aspects and coming up with amazing systems, and then we as users we do things that make it very hard and make it really more challenging at the technical side.
Okay, thank you for your question. Actually, my other research area, which is spreading cybersecurity awareness among employees, this is what I do actually. First, we study the employee behavior. We study their mistakes, their current awareness level. Then for that organization, we develop suitable solution for them.
Thank you very much. This is quite interesting.
Any other questions? I'll be more than happy to answer. Thank you all for your time.
Okay, we move ahead towards the conference. Our next presenter is Stephen Cyprian Resia, Faculty of Law, University of Craiova, Romania. Topic: topic the competence of the European Union institutions in the field of environmental protection. The emergence of competence in the field of environmental protection was a catalyst for the comprehensive agenda in this matter that the EU has developed since then. The interpretation of this competence by the Court of Justice of the European Union, as well as the jurisprudential development of the principles regarding environmental protection, were essential in the development of the Union's environmental acquis. Other environmental policy implementation tools such as programs, communications, strategies, and white papers also play an important role even if they are recommendations. The core of EU environmental law is strongly influenced by the principles listed in Article 191, sub-article 2 TFEU, which states that Union policy shall be based on the precautionary principle and on the principles that preventive action should be taken, that environmental damage should has a priority be rectified at source, and that the polluter should pay. Each of these principles is detailed separately. In short, the precautionary principle aims to minimize damage caused by unknown environmental risks. The preventive action principle aims to minimize damage caused by known environmental risks. The source principle seeks to prevent further damage by addressing the source of the environmental problem, and the polluter pays principle aims to ensure that the damage falls on those involved in a polluting activity. Okay, let's start the presentation.
All right, thank you very much. I'm glad to be here with you today. My name is Ștefan Ciprian Raicea from the University of Craiova, Romania. I follow a PhD in environmental law at the University of Craiova, and my topic today will be about the competence of the European Union institutions in the field of environmental protection. One of the main goals of the European Union nowadays is to protect the environment. That was the reason the European Union adopted the European Green Deal in 2019. And next I will share screen a PowerPoint presentation. Can you see it? Can you see the presentation? All right. The competence of the European Union began in the origins of the European Union was the creating an internal market to ensure deep economic integration and to prevent violent conflict between member states. The legal foundations are the Article 3, Paragraph 3 of the Treaty of the European Union and Article 2 of the Treaty of the European Community, which emphasize the economic integration as a path to improving living standards and promoting harmonious development. Over time, these provisions began to explicitly include environmental protection as part of the development goals. The environmental focus emerges when the Single European Act in 1986 was adopted, being seen often as the starting point for the European Union environmental legislation, environmental efforts began much earlier, especially in the 1960s and 1970s. And the early measures was the adoption of the EU Directive 67 per 588 on dangerous substances, which addressed environmental issues indirectly through product safety. The 1972 Stockholm Conference spurred environmental consciousness at the international level, influencing European Union policy. Moreover, the institutional steps were made, the first one in 1973. The first Environmental Action Program, EAP, was launched. A Directorate General for the Environment was also created in the European Commission. And the EU's founding goals were not only economic. From early on, improving the quality of life for citizens, including environmental well-being, was part of the vision, because the European Union has another goals such as the internal market, the single digital market, the single energy market, and moreover, the distribution of competence in environmental protection field. We can speak about the shared competence, in which the environmental protection is a shared competence between the EU and its member states, meaning both can legislate, but EU law prevails when enacted. The principle of subsidiarity, one of the most important principles on which the European Union and its institutions function. The EU acts only when objectives cannot be sufficiently achieved by member states alone. This is often the case for cross-border environmental issues where pollution or impact affects more than one state. We have principle of proportionality. Any action must be limited to what is necessary to achieve treaty objectives. This affects the type of legal instruments used. The regulations directly applicable in all member states, directives binding on results but leave implementation methods to states. And the preference for directives is which brings our attention. Most environmental legislation is passed as directives due to the need for flexibility across the diverse national contexts, which differ from the cultural background of every country which is member of the European Union. Challenges with these principles, the subsidiarity and proportionality. Enforcement of these principles is still weak nowadays. The protocol number 2 of Lisbon Treaty allows national parliaments to raise concerns, yellow or orange card system, but its effect is limited. The use of internal market competence, the Article 114 of the Treaty of the Functioning of the European Union. Some environmental measures are adopted under internal market rules, like the REACH regulation on chemicals. This sometimes complicates subsidiarity and proportionality evaluations. The external environmental competence. We know that the EU has growing external powers in environmental matters. According to Articles 2, Paragraph 2, 3, Paragraph 2, and 21 of the TFEU, especially regarding climate change and international agreements. However, since it remains a shared competence, the division of powers between EU and member states is still complex. The interactions with EU competence in the internal market. Historical use of internal market legal basis for environmental law. We know that before the EU had a specific environmental competence, early environmental legislation was often adopted using the legal basis for internal market harmonization, now found in Article 114 of TFEU. This allowed the European Union to regulate environmental matters under the guise of ensuring the free movement of goods and eliminating barriers to trade. The environmental standards can be used, let's say, as trade barriers, because member states sometimes introduce environmentally motivated product standards, example for timber or chemicals, which although formally non-discriminatory, may in practice disadvantage imports and restrict trade. This is a method of unfair competition made to foreign producers who want to bring products in EU country. For example, a country may require timber to be harvested or processed in specific eco-friendly ways. These requirements might be aligned with local practices, but difficult for foreign producers to meet. Need for harmonization to prevent such environmental rules from fragmenting the internal market. The EU often harmonizes these standards through legislation. A clear example is vehicle emissions legislation, which sets uniform standards across all member states to both ensure environmental protection and maintain fair competition within the internal market. The dual objectives of the EU measures, many EU environmental regulations serve both economic and environmental goals. This dual character is evident in the design of the legal acts that safeguard the environment and flexibility for member states, especially Article 193 and Article 114 of the TFEU. While harmonization sets minimum standards, member states may maintain or adopt stricter measures if they are justified, or introduce new national measures if they present new specific evidence or specific national environmental conditions. However, these new measures must be notified to the Commission and can be subject to legal and political scrutiny. Legal justifications for national derogations. We have Article 36, which allows member states to restrict imports and exports for reasons such as the protection of health and the environment. The Court of Justice of the European Union has accepted environmental protection as a valid justification for trade restrictive national measures under its rule of reason doctrine. Yes. Do you have a question? All right. The CEU has accepted environmental protection as a valid justification for trade restrictive national measures under its rule of reason. We have the key case example, Cassis de Dijon and Danish bottle case. In this jurisprudencia case, Cassis de Dijon, we had something like an alcoholic drink which was brought to Germany from France, and Germany restricted its import because the German authorities said that that alcoholic drink had a lower alcohol degree and can easily drive that person to be dependent on that drink rather than the same German drink which has a higher alcohol degree. And the Court of Justice of the European Union rejected this reason. We have debates about how much flexibility member states should have in environmental matters, as the EU has legislated, whether the EU level harmonization should allow higher national standards or limit them in the name of market unity. The objectives of the European Union in the field of environmental protection. The three core domains of environmental protection, the pollution control, address the excessive concentration of harmful substances in air, water, and soil. This includes climate change mitigation, often regulated through emission standards, waste management rules, and environmental impact assessments. The natural resource management focuses on the sustainable use of finite resources, such as water, forests, energy, and minerals, aims to prevent overexploitation and ensure long-term availability. Biodiversity and protected species, emphasizes conservation of ecosystems and endangered species, also includes climate change adaptation as shifting climates impact habitats and species survival. The interdependency between the environmental domains. We know that these domains are interconnected and often overlap in practice. Example, excessive pollution, the pesticide use can harm biodiversity. Overuse of a resource like water can endanger ecosystem or species reliant on it. The EU environmental law must therefore be designed with cross-cutting effects in mind. Diverging legal foundations and objectives. Despite their connections, each domain often operates under different legal regimes and with varying priorities. Pollution is usually addressed through public regulation. Natural resources are traditionally linked to state sovereignty and may be governed separately. We have the United Nations Resolution 1803 on permanent sovereignty over natural resources from 1962, which affirmed the states' exclusive rights to exploit their own natural resources. We have separation in international and national law. In several legal systems, notably the United States, environmental law and natural resource law are treated as separate legal disciplines. This divergence creates challenges for the integration and coherence of the EU law, especially when trying to legislate on issues that sit across both areas. The private law origins of environmental rules. Historically, environmental harms were addressed using private legal remedies. Tort law, nuisance, negligence, the property law, the interference with land use. The move toward public environmental law focused on the environment itself, not just private harm, is relatively recent and still intersects with older private law concepts. We have the anthropocentric versus ecocentric perspectives. EU environmental law is largely anthropocentric, meaning it focuses on protecting the human health, ensuring economic and social being, but the ecocentric one approaches where the environment is protected for its intrinsic value are less common but not absent. These competing philosophies can influence how rules are written and interpreted. We have also legal and ethical foundation for the pollution control. The objectives of the 191 article in TFEU are the preserving, protecting, and improving the quality of the environment, protecting human health from environmental harms, promoting prudent and rational use of natural resources, supporting international actions to tackle regional and global issues, and combating climate change, both through mitigation and adaptation. The integration with other EU policies. Environmental objectives are not isolated. They are embedded through European law. We have the Article 3, Paragraph 3, the Article 11, the Article 37, and despite its anthropocentric foundation, the EU constantly aims for high environmental standards. Policies like the European Green Deal exemplify the EU's effort to align environmental and economic objectives and position the EU as a global leader in environmental governance. We have also principles of European Union law regarding environmental protection, the precautionary principles, the preventive action principles, which focuses on known risks, encourages early intervention to avoid environmental degradation before it occurs. These principles is especially relevant in areas such as industrial pollution, waste management, water, and air quality regulations. We have the rectification of source principle, the polluter pays principle, one of the most well-known and practical principles, which says that the cost of environmental harm should be borne by the party responsible for the pollution. We have compliance and impact assessment. Each legislative proposal by the European Commission must demonstrate compliance with these principles. The role of the Court of Justice of the European Union, the CJU plays a critical role in interpreting and enforcing these principles. The EU legislator quietly enjoys wide discretion in how it applies these principles. This limits the court's ability to invalidate EU acts unless there is clear misuse or failure to observe the principles. We have the key actors which are involved in the process of adoption of rules, like the European Commission, the Council of the European Union, the European Parliament, the European Council, and the last one, which is very important, the Court of Justice of the European Union. We have the European Commission, which has the central legislative role, holds exclusive right of legislative initiatives. No law can be proposed without it. Environmental legislation is drafted by the Commission based on scientific advice, expert reports, public consultations. The environmental work is distributed across multiple directorates general for environment, climate action, energy, agriculture, transport, or health. The Council of the European Union is handled by the Environment Council, composed of environment ministers from each member state. The Environment Council was created in 1973, meets approximately 4 times per year, plays a key role in adopting and negotiating the legislation with the Parliament. We have the European Parliament, acts as co-legislator with the Council. Environmental work is coordinated by the Committee on the Environment, Public Health and Food Safety, also established in 1973, oversees EU agencies like the European Environment Agency, European Chemicals Agency, European Food Safety Authority, and the European Medicines Agency. The European Council, not involved in day-to-day legislation but sets broad strategic priorities. The Court of Justice of the European Union, which interprets the EU environmental law, ensures uniform application across member states of the EU law, decides on infringement proceedings when the state does not transpose the provisions of the European norms in their own national legislation, and gives the preliminary rulings, which are the interpretation of the EU law given to the national courts. We have the supporting bodies and agencies like the European Environment Agency, the European Union Network for the Implementation and Enforcement of Environmental Law. And as a conclusion, the EU's role as a leading environmental lawmaker, we know that the European Union is one of the world's most active and prolific legislatures in the environmental field, covering a complex and diverse ecological area spanning its 27 member states. The complexity and diversity of the environmental context. The EU's jurisdiction includes a wide variety of habitats and species, reflecting significant ecological diversity that must be regulated comprehensively. Technical nature of legislative process, we know that in the environmental field, the law is quite technical and often viewed as beneficial, especially for regulating environmental impacts that have long-term consequences, enable precise and durable policy measures. The public participants' improvement and challenges in implementation, despite strong legislative frameworks, weaknesses persist in the enforcement and practical application of environmental directives and regulations. We have the 2019 European Green Deal and the economic leverage and global influence. The EU uses its economic power to promote and sometimes impose its environmental standards beyond its borders, influencing third countries through trade and diplomatic relations. And we have the last one, multilateralism and international influence. The domestic environmental policies shaped by international negotiations and global developments. That was all I wanted to show you today, and thank you very much for hearing me today. I'm glad to be here, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Cyprian, for your presentation.
Thank you. If someone has any question, I can answer with pleasure.
Okay, let's we move forward towards the conference. Okay, our next presenter is Okera Jenkins, DBA graduate, National University, San Diego, California. Topic: lack of consumer adoption of conversational robots in the online marketplace for US-based customers, a qualitative study. Artificial intelligence technology continues to grow, with 2025 expected to exceed 17 billion USD in investments. Chatbots or conversational robots are a popular form of artificial intelligence technology used in marketing that involves consumer spending, projected to surpass 72 billion USD by 2028. However, consumer reactions to chatbots continue to be a challenge despite marketers' excitement. The problem addressed by this study was the lack of consumer adoption of conversational robots in the online marketplace. The purpose of this qualitative case study was to explore the lack of consumer conversational robots in the position of Facebook users in the United States. The chosen framework for this research was the technology acceptance model introduced by Alfred Davis in 1989 to to assess users' attitudes toward technology by measuring their perspectives of perceived use and perceived ease of use. Two research questions were developed to address the research problem. The methodology used was a qualitative case study design, which permitted 5 open-ended interview questions to answer the two research questions by interviewing 20 participants. Participants were recruited via Facebook, followed by 20 interviews spanning over 2 months. All interviews were recorded and transcribed using NVivo 15 software and later analyzed using an open-coded inductive thematic analysis to generate categories and themes. Results revealed that consumers desire improved personalization of chatbots and reduced screen interference during their online shopping experiences. Implications of the study indicated the following. First, perceived usefulness showed no significant relationship with consumers. Second, frustration, annoyance, impatience, intrusiveness, and mistrust were key reasons for avoiding text-based chatbots. Third, user satisfaction with chatbot interactions impacted online purchase intention. Fourth, consumers perceived chatbots as not useful due to their limited human-like interaction, lack of helpfulness, and inability to address questions sufficiently. And fifth, increased anthropomorphism can positively influence user engagement and comfortability. Recommendations for practice and future research include web developers and marketers refining how chatbots are deployed on a web page, artificial intelligence developers evolving chatbot personalization, and researchers expanding this study by exploring commonalities in specific demographic groups to uncover deeper insights on chatbot adoption.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Okir Jenkins, and first of all, I just want to thank the International Conference on Business, Economics, Law, English, and Psychology for providing me this opportunity. And so, hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Okir Jenkins, and first of all, I just want to thank the International Conference on Business, Economics, Law, Language, and Psychology for providing me this opportunity. And so, without further ado, I'm here to present my research on the lack of consumer adoption of conversational robots in the online marketplace for US-based customers. So artificial intelligence powers tools like Siri, Alexa, ChatGPT. Originally from work from Alan Turing in 1950, AI now supports digital marketing, personalization, targeting, and content creation. So a growing form of AI-enabled marketing is the form of chatbots, also known as conversational robots, which is a computer program designed for humans to interact with technology through conversational interfaces, including text, voice, gestures. So the role of chatbots in digital marketing is to ensure greater connectedness with consumers. The concept of a personal assistant in an online shopping experience seems to be in positive reactions to chatbots remain a challenge, despite the marketers' excitement for the potential higher profitability, efficient service. So a study by Kathy Marlino indicates that chatbots may contribute to customer satisfaction. However, findings show low customer satisfaction, consumer resistance to AI chatbots. Addressed by the study was the lack of consumer adoption of conversational robots in the online marketplace. Company efforts to invest in chatbots to maximize return on investment are fruitless without widespread support from consumers, resulting in consumer adoption resistance towards anthropomorphic or human-like chatbots, negative marketing outcomes that include customer dissatisfaction, decreased purchase intentions. Failing to address consumers' negative perceptions of chatbots will only exacerbate this issue, constrain probable outcomes. The purpose of this qualitative case study was to explore the lack of consumer adoption of conversational robots in the online marketplace and the position of Facebook users in the United States. At this research stage, consumer adoption is defined as a process encompassing stages in which customers move from initial knowledge and innovation to developing an attitude towards it, hence deciding whether to adopt it or not. So the stages of consumer adoption consist of knowledge, persuasion, decision, implementation, and confirmation. So this study contained two research questions. First, what are the experiences of US-based Facebook users who encounter AI chatbots that influence their decision to purchase or not purchase products and services? And two, how do US-based Facebook user responses to AI chatbots in their online shopping experience reflect their intentions to adopt or not adopt chatbot usage? So together, these questions address both the immediate impact of chatbot interactions and long-term implications for adoption, aligning with the study's goal of identifying barriers and opportunities to improve consumer acceptance of conversational AI. The theoretical framework used for this study was the technology acceptance model developed by Alfred Davis in 1989. The technology acceptance model was proposed to determine why users accept or reject information and utilizes two constructs: perceived usefulness and perceived ease of use. Perceived usefulness describes the degree to which a person feels that using a specific system would improve his or her job performance. On perceived ease of use refers to the degree to which an individual believes that using a particular system would require no effort. The key purpose of the technology acceptance model is to provide a foundation for understanding the impact of external factors on internal attitudes, beliefs, and intentions. So prior literature found that perceived usefulness and perceived ease of use have positive impacts on consumer behavior. While professionals view chatbots positively because of their consistent online presence and cost reduction for brands, insecurity, discomfort, and complexity contributed to some reasons against AI chatbot acceptance. And chatbot e-service satisfaction is found to be a convincing determinant and predictor of users' continuous attention towards chatbots. So a qualitative case study was used to gather rich consumer insights by the use of open-ended interview questions. In addition, an inductive thematic approach was taken, which allowed patterns to emerge from participant interviews. So for this study, participants were recruited from a US-based Facebook known as USA Shopping Online, which consisted of 12,300 members. A purposive sampling strategy ensured participants had recent online shopping chatbot experience. 20 participants were selected who met the following criteria: they would be at least 18 years of age, they need to have prior experience with the chatbot, they need to have began an online experience in the past month prior to their interview. Open-ended phone interviews were recorded and transcribed via the Niveo 15 software. 5 open-ended interview questions were provided with 3 interview pilot tests to ensure question clarity. So here were the 5 open-ended interview questions. How have your intentions to shop online been affected by the appearance or use of a chatbot? What feelings arise upon the appearance of a chatbot prompt? How has the chatbot experience influenced your decision to purchase or not purchase a product or service? When you encountered a chatbot as an online shopper, in what ways did you find a chatbot useful or not useful? And what recommendations would you give to improve a chatbot experience? The study procedures for this research contain 9 steps. First, the recruitment of eligible respondents through the Facebook USA online shop, providing consent information with willing participants, conducting interviews via telephone because none of the participants chose video chat option, transcribing the recorded interviews using the Niveo 15 online transcription service, verifying each transcription for errors and inaccuracies, sending each participant a copy of their transcription via email for final confirmation of accuracy, using the open coding technique for each interview line by line to develop categories, sorting these categories into themes, and then taking assorted information rather, and exporting it into Excel to be turned into percentage pie charts for more visual representation. The coding technique identified key themes across transcripts through line-by-line analysis of each interview. The results are validated through participant transcript reviews alongside the use of archival data. So there are key 3 limitations to this study. First, having a singular focus on one industry. Second, the small sample size of 20 individuals, which may have limited the potential of more data and themes. And third, just me being the single coder, because multiple can enhance the accuracy of a qualitative case study that involves gathering rich data via interviews. So following the interviews and the data analysis, here are our key findings. First, we found that 50% of participants were indifferent to the presence or appearance of a chatbot. 46% of participants expressed dislike, where frustration, annoyance, impatience, intrusiveness, and mistrust were all cited. 20% of participants' purchase intention was negatively influenced. Irritating, suspicious, and overwhelming were leading categories. And 65% of participants did not find chatbots useful. It was the inability to address questions and limited human-like interactions that were the primary categories. And these were tied to our first research question. So research question 2 was addressed with the following findings. 26% of participants wanted improvements in language programming, specifically natural language processing. 22% of participants want minimized screen interference. Funny enough, we had 4 themes that all shared 11% of participant responses. And those were that participants want increased human input. Participants, they want process improvements. They want the freedom to choose whether they want the chatbot to appear or not. And the last 11% had no recommendations. They either already adopted it or they refused to adopt it, regardless of improvements. And then you had 8% participants who want greater transparency. So our findings provide us the following implications. So first, perceived usefulness doesn't drive adoption alone. Half of the participants were indifferent to chatbot presence, which suggests that interface design and usefulness alone doesn't significantly impact purchase behavior, but trust, personalization, and context matter more. Negative emotions drive avoidance. So nearly half expressed frustration and mistrust due to intrusive or poorly timed chatbot appearances. This shows that bad timing and persistence erodes trust and deters engagement. And then chatbots can hinder purchases. So 1 in 5 participants said that chatbot interactions discourage them from completing purchases, describing them as annoying or overwhelming. So essentially, poor user experience directly reduces purchase intention. Lack of helpfulness undermines value. So you had 65% who found chatbots unhelpful, where they cited lack of depth, generic responses, and failure to understand queries. So this reveals a gap in conversational AI that needs to be addressed through better natural language processing and personalization. Also, some human-like features may boost engagement. So some users responded positively to anthropomorphic traits, which help build emotional connections. And so when implemented carefully, your human-like elements may increase adoption and comfort. A few recommendations for practice were uncovered. So for language programming improvement, AI developers should continue to refine personalization and anthropomorphism with an increased understanding of open-ended text for consumers. And then for minimizing screen interference, retail companies and web developers should start chatbots in a minimized format, use subtle visual prompts, offer more valued readings that can include like sales discounts taking place at the time, allow users to opt out of chatbot interactions, and activate chatbots when prompted by cart abandonment or extended page idleness. Now, recommendations for feature research include things like exploring demographic differences, including age, gender, race, occupation, income, and U.S. region to uncover any trends or similarities. Delving into additional aspects of anthropomorphism and personalization, aside from questions and responses desired by consumers, and exploring how chatbots with specific names impact consumers during their shopping experiences. So in conclusion, making greater efforts to improve language programming by increasing anthropomorphism, personalization, open-ended questions will assist growth of consumer adoption. Understanding the psychological barriers of chatbot adoption due to their size, position, and occurrence on customer screens will be an important foundation for researchers to optimize this technology to increase adoption as companies continue to make hefty investments. Currently, the adoption of AI chatbots continues to face resistance due to challenges, including the need for continued learning and adaptation to the constant advancement of technology, the risk of dependability, and moral and legal difficulties. And with growing annual investments in chatbots each year, consumers are also going to encounter these robots more frequently, which means they'll also experience more of what they perceive as service failures. So all in all, consumer perspectives on adopting chatbots must be prioritized to reduce your resource waste and maximize financial investments. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to email me at okjinx@gmail.com. I'd be happy to answer anything for you. So you guys have a great rest of your day, and thank you guys so much for tuning in. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Akira, for your fabulous presentation. So our next presenter is Viorel Liviu Alexandru, Faculty of Law, Economics Studies topic, Lighting in Cinematic Virtual Reality, Academy, Bucharest, Romania. Topic, is there a second chance to asylum in Romania if the criminal charge risk alleged within first set of proceedings denying the asylum can be substantiated through an official criminal charge letter in a second set of procedures? Structured on the Q&A model, the present study aims at analyzing several legal issues stemming from the procedure of granting access to a new asylum procedure based on a criminal charge letter issued by prosecuting agent from country of origin, existent but not known by the asylum seeker at the material time of first round of proceedings. Seen as a new element within the meaning of Romanian law on asylum, accompanied by a legal opinion on the legal consequences of such. Following the overview of the legal framework, 6 questions are raised. First, is there a difference between new elements and new reasons? The second one is it compulsory for the asylum seeker to not raise the criminal charge issue during the first asylum procedure? Third, is the asylum seeker entitled to a second procedure if the criminal charge existed before the first round of procedures? Fourth, would aggravating of punishment reasons by analyzed for the purpose of opening access to a second asylum procedures? Fifth, can the authenticity of the new element be called into question? Sixth, is personal situation and professional trajectory relevant for getting access to a second asylum procedure? Each question receives a reasoned answer according to the law, the Romanian case law, and the legal experience of the author. The article naturally ends with specific conclusions. Okay, viral is not present in the conference. Let's move ahead with the next presenter. Our next presenter is Amir Mohammad Noor, General Internal Medicine, University or Hospitals of Leicester, England. Topic: Optimizing type 2 diabetes mellitus prescriptions practices on general internal medicine patients in the University Hospitals of Leicester in line with NICE guidelines. And NICE recommends the use of SGLT2 inhibitors in patients with chronic heart failure, established atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, and those at high cardiovascular risk. SGLT2 inhibitors work by blocking the SGLT2 transporters in the proximal renal tubules, reducing glucose reabsorption and promoting glucosuria. This leads to lower glycemia with an approximate HbA1c reduction of 1.0%. Beyond glucose control, SGLT2 inhibitors exert significant nephroprotective effects by promoting sodium excretion, which restores tubuloglomerular feedback and reduces intraglomerular pressure. These agents also induce caloric loss, leading to weight reduction, improved insulin sensitivity, and enhanced lipid metabolism, which may mitigate lipotoxicity. Furthermore, the metabolic shift towards gluconeogenesis and ketogenesis is thought to provide additional protective benefits for the heart and kidneys. The data supporting these recommendations were collected from 105 patients in general internal medicine wards at University Hospitals, Leicester. The aims of this data is to educate doctors on NICE guidelines regarding type 2 diabetes mellitus management, particularly the cardiovascular and renal benefits of SGLT2 inhibitors in high-risk populations.
Hello, can everyone see the screen?
Yes, please present.
Okay. Right, so my presentation is on optimizing type 2 diabetes mellitus prescription practices on general internal medicine patients in the University Hospitals of Leicester, in line with NICE guidelines. So the background is that NICE recommends the use of SGLT2 inhibitors in patients with chronic heart failure, established atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, and those at high cardiovascular risk. So we calculate the risk by using the Q-risk score. So if they have a Q-risk score above 10%, that usually indicates that they have a high cardiovascular risk. SGLT2 inhibitors work by blocking the SGLT2 co-transporters in the proximal renal tubules, reducing glucose reabsorption and promoting glycosuria, which is basically the excretion of glucose through the urine. This leads to lower glycemia, lower glucose levels in the blood, with an approximate HbA1c reduction of 1%. Beyond glucose control, SGLT2 inhibitors also exert significant nephroprotective effects by promoting sodium excretion, which restores the tubular-glomerular feedback and reduces intraglomerular pressure. So what is a Q-risk? Q-risk is the calculation that estimates a person's risk of developing cardiovascular disease within the next 10 years. So the aims and objectives of this research was to see if in patients diabetes-related admissions have their regular prescription optimized as per NICE guidelines, and also to educate doctors regarding prescriptions of SGLT2 inhibitors to patients in line with NICE guidelines to encourage the calculation of a Q-risk score in patients that have type 2 diabetes, and to establish whether or not a prescription of SGLT2 inhibitors would be beneficial to the patient. So going back to Q-risk, these are the parameters that are used in order to calculate the Q-risk score. So with this, we look at the patient's age. So obviously older individuals are generally at higher risk. We also look at the sex of the patient, whether the male and female. Certain ethnicities as well have a higher risk of cardiovascular disease. Smoking status is also a major risk factor. Blood pressure, cholesterol levels, BMI, other medical conditions like chronic kidney disease, and also if they're using certain medications for high blood pressure, and if they have a family history of cardiovascular disease. So there are a few contraindications to SGLT2 inhibitors. One of them being if they have had a previous episode of DKA, which is diabetic ketoacidosis, if the patient is currently unwell with intercurrent illness. And the reason you shouldn't be giving SGLT2 inhibitors in those patients is you're more likely to induce euglycemic DKA, basically. If they have certain moderate to severe renal impairment, and also if they have severe peripheral arterial disease or active ulcers, and if there's severe dehydration or hypertension risk. So this is the chart of the NICE guidelines for type 2 diabetes. If you look here, so first medication that you would prescribe in each patient would be metformin. If the patient has a known chronic heart failure or established atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, you'd give metformin, and then as soon as metformin tolerability is confirmed, you'd offer an SGLT2 inhibitor. And also if they have a high risk of a CVD, a Q-risk score above 10, you'd do the same. You'd offer metformin being the first line, and then once they're able to tolerate metformin, you'd introduce SGLT2 inhibitors. And obviously, if metformin is contraindicated, if any issues come up with metformin, you'd have an SGLT2 inhibitor alone. So the chart clearly shows that patients that have known CVD or high risk of CVD should all be on SGLT2 inhibitors. So we collected data from 105 patients that were admitted into the general internal medicine wards that had a diagnosis of type 2 diabetes, with 44 being male, 61 being females. This is the ethnicities of those 105 patients, 84 white, 18 Indian, Pakistani. Yeah. So majority of the patients that we collected data from were a lot older, so above 60 was the majority of them, with most of them being between 80 to 89. So on this chart, it shows that from the 105, there were 36 patients that had some high-risk CVD or a confirmed CVD, and they had no contraindications to SGLT2 inhibitors. Of those patients, 39 of them were not on any SGLT2 inhibitors. And obviously also patients with heart failure as well, because did not have any SGLT2 inhibitors prescribed. So I made a quick summary. So in total, 88 out of 105 patients had no SGLT2 inhibitor on their regular prescriptions. Out of the 88, 62 had no contraindications. 55 had their QRIS score above a 10. 35 out of 88 had diagnosed CKD, chronic kidney disease, stage 3 or above, and 13 had diagnosed heart failure, with 39 having poorly controlled diabetes with a HbA1c above 7.5. So this audit was recently made, and we've just presented the audit findings in departmental meetings and general internal medicine conferences. We plan on conducting the same study in sister specialties like diabetes, renal, and cardiology, and to build a joint cardio-renal metabolic guideline available on Insight, which is basically the main website in the UHL, which is the hospitals in Leicester, which serves as a guide for long-term prescription optimization. It can also serve as a tool for giving valuable consideration to the primary care. So primary care being the GPs and such. So we're planning on now giving advice to GPs who are the primary care doctors for the patient. So they'll be able to revise and look at the patient's QRIS score and whether they would benefit from having an SGLT2 inhibitor on top of their regular type 2 diabetes medications. And that's everything. Thank you. There's a question. Let me just read through it. Research type.
Anyone have any question?
Yeah, so there's a question in the chat. So what we're planning on doing is obviously making a easy, first of all, putting posters on renal and cardiology wards. So patients that come in with type 2 diabetes that have also some cardiovascular disease, those patients are the ones that we would look at needing SGLT2 inhibitors. So it's more a case just educating those doctors that are come into contact with these patients more often than not, and being aware on whether or not, if they have a known CVD, and if they don't, to calculate their Q-risk score to find out whether they would benefit from a prescription of SGLT2 inhibitors. So if they are not on any SGLT2 inhibitors, and the patient is then discharged from a cardiology ward, for example, then for us to start that patient on an SGLT2 inhibitor as the hospital doctor, and then write a letter to the patient's primary care doctor, the GP, the general practitioner, who would then be able to provide a repeat prescription for the patient. Yeah. No worries. Is there any other questions?
Okay, can we move forward with the conference? Or anyone has any other question? Okay, let's move forward. So our next presenter is Mohammad Amir, Leicester Royal Infirmary, University Hospitals of Leicester, NHS Trust, United Kingdom. Topic: cardiotoxicity monitoring and management in HER2 targeted therapy in breast cancer patients. HER2 targeted therapies have significantly improved survival in HER2 positive breast cancer patients. These therapies are associated with cardiotoxicity, primarily left ventricular ejection fraction decline, which may be asymptomatic or progress to heart failure. HER2 related cardiac dysfunction typically occurs during treatment, potentially leading to treatment suspension, delays, and increased recurrence. Amir, the presentation is not audible. Are you there, Amir? The provided presentation is not audible. So please provide any other presentation that is audible to the participant. Am I audible, Amir? Okay, let's move forward with the another participant. Our next presenter is Stephanie Widodo, Faculty of Medicine, Muhammadiyah University of Purwokerto, Indonesia. Topic: Market Dynamics and Consumer Intentions for Dengue Vaccination in Indonesia. Dengue fever poses a persistent health threat in Indonesia, where environmental and urban conditions favor the spread of Aedes mosquitoes. Beyond clinical and epidemiological considerations, understanding market dynamics and consumer behavior is crucial for improving vaccine uptake. This study explored the psychological, cultural, and technological factors that shape consumers' intentions to receive the dengue vaccine, emphasizing the mediating role of attitudes. A cross-sectional online survey was conducted with 320 respondents recruited through snowball sampling. Participants completed a validated questionnaire measuring trust, perceived benefit, perceived risk, religiosity, technology acceptance, attitudes, and vaccination intention. Data were analyzed during structural equation modeling, partial least squares with bootstrapping to axis significance. The reliability and validity of the constructs were confirmed through Cronbach's alpha, ROC, ROA, and AVE. The findings showed that consumer attitudes significantly mediated the influence of trust and perceived benefit on vaccine intention. Trust emerged as the most powerful predictor, exerting both direct and indirect effects, whereas perceived benefit affected intention only through attitudes. Technology acceptance and religiosity directly influenced intention with no significant mediating effect. Perceived risk had no notable impact. These insights highlight the need to cultivate consumer trust, communicate clear vaccine benefits, and promote technology driven engagement. Tailored public health messaging that respects cultural and religious values can better align with market dynamics and drive greater acceptance of the dengue vaccine in Indonesia.
Good af- So, hello, Ms. Kajal. We use the record, right? Afternoon, everyone. I'm Stephanie Widodo, and I will present our research on market dynamic and consumer intention for dengue vaccination in Indonesia. This study was conducted in collaboration with Heri Justiana Astuti. Here's a quick overview of the content. We will start with introduction, and then we continue the research on vaccine acceptance, and I will discuss about hypothesis and study design, continue with result and discussion, and then I will show our quality assurance of indicator and construct, and end with the conclusion and recommendation. Now, why we conduct this research? Dengue fever is mosquito-borne virus that remains a serious public health challenge in Indonesia. The tropical climate and rapid urbanization create ideal conditions for ED mosquito proliferation. And this will result of frequent outbreaks result in substantial morbidity and economic impact. Many studies demonstrate the impact of climate factor on dengue transmission. Despite factor control strategies, dengue prevalence remains high. Hence, vaccination is increasingly considered a necessary complementary strategy in public health effort. There is a need of innovative approach. Understanding what drives people's willingness to vaccinate is key to ensuring high coverage and program success. On the research, we use the health belief model to explore how individuals are more likely to vaccinate if they're highly susceptible for the disease. And then the social norm and peer influence also play a crucial roles. Additionally, social, cultural, and physiological factors also we use in this research. Positive attitudes toward vaccine are strong predictors of vaccination intention, but limited study examining dengue vaccination intention in Indonesia highlight a crucial knowledge gap. The next part of our study is hypothesis and study design. Our study hypothesized that vaccine intention are shaped by the role of attitude. We also investigate mediating factors such as perceived effectiveness, trust, and social influences. There are 5 factors independent of collaboration between the health belief model and socio-cultural physiological factor. The first one is perceived benefit, trust, technology acceptance, religiosity, and the last is perceived risk. We have one moderation factor, that is attitude, to see the intention of dengue vaccination. A cross-sectional survey with 320 respondents was conducted online using the snowball sampling. Data collected using a validated questionnaire covering key factors. Then we analyze using the SAM-PLS, structural equation modeling partial least squares, and all construct we test for reliability and validity using the Cronbach alpha, Rho C, Rho A, and AVE. The result of our study are we found no significant difference in vaccine intention based on gender. We use You can see the p-value is 0.8. And then for salary, also no significant because the p-value is 0.7. And for the resident, also not significant because the p-value is 0.9. But for gender and ethnicity, we found that there is significant association because the p-value is less than 0.05. From the participant characteristic, we can conclude that age and ethnicity show meaningful association, but gender, salary, and resident, no association. This is suggests that other factors play a larger role than economic status. Interestingly, we found that perceived vaccine risk did not significantly influence attitude or intention. This may indicate a gap in risk communication or public awareness. This is the result of our study using SAM-PLS. You can see there is 5 independent factors. There is risk, benefit, technology, religiosity, and trust. And 1 moderation factor, there is attitude, to see the intention of vaccine dengue. There is 5 parts. The first one is risk, attitude, and intention. The second is benefit, attitude, and intention. The third one is technology, attitude, and intention. The fourth is religious, attitude, and intention. And the last is trust, attitude, and intention. From this part, we will see the direction, the indirect effect, the direct effect, and the last one is what is the status of those paths. For the first part, from the risk, attitude, and intention, we can see that not significant link between the risk, attitude, and intention. In contrast, for the second part, we can see that perceived benefit and attitude has strong influence or intention. For technology, had a direct effect on intention, suggesting the importance of access. The religiosity negatively affected the intention, suggesting potential cultural barriers. And the last, the trust significantly influenced attitude and intention, both directly or through the mediation. From those results, I will highlight 3 parts that have direct effect. The first one is technology significantly directly affect vaccine intention, does not shape attitudes meaningfully. The second one is religiosity has a significant direct effect but indicative on vaccine intention by bypassing attitude. The third one is trust significantly positively affect attitude and has a complementary partial mediation effect on vaccine intention. For quality assurance of indicator and construct, we must check it to support the robustness of our result. We ensure our construct was statistically sound. Our reliability indicator exceeds the accepted threshold, ensuring the consistency and accuracy of our measurement tools. For reliability, we use alpha, rho C, and rho A, all pass the threshold of 0.7. And for validity, we using the AVE values. For conclusion, there is trust is the strongest predictor of vaccine intention. And the second is attitude mediates the impact of trust and perceived benefit. Therefore, building trust is crucial for improving vaccine uptake. From those key findings, we make public health strategies for recommendation to enhance the vaccine uptake for participants in Indonesia. The first one is building trust through transparency and community engagement. The second one is emphasizing vaccine benefit and leveraging technological tools for accessibility. And the third one is addressing cultural and religious barriers to improve dengue vaccine acceptance in Indonesia. This insight highlights the need to cultivate consumer trust, then communicated clear vaccine benefit, and the last is promote technology-driven engagement. Tailor public health messaging that respect cultural and religious values can better align with the market dynamic and drive greater acceptance of the dengue vaccine in Indonesia. Thank you for your attention. We welcome any question or feedback regarding our study.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, for the fabulous presentation. Let's move ahead with the another participant. Our next presenter is Daria Usenka, Department of Pediatrics, Odessa National Medical University, Ukraine. Topic: clinical significance of high frequency chest wall oscillation in the comprehensive treatment of community acquired pneumonia in children. Relevance: pneumonia remains a significant medical and social problem in the 21st century. There is a need for new methods to improve pulmonary function due to ventilation and gas exchange impairments in children with pneumonia. High frequency chest wall oscillation offers potential for enhancing PF. HFCWO promotes mucus clearance through vibration and improves PF through positive pressure compression. It is widely used in the treatment of cystic fibrosis, bronchitis, asthma, and atelectasis. Objective: to evaluate the efficacy of HFCWO in the comprehensive treatment of community acquired pneumonia in children. Materials and methods. A clinical study was conducted in 107 children aged 6 to 16 years, mean age 11.8 plus 0.5 years, at the Specialized Care Department for Older Children of the Odessa Regional Children's Clinical Hospital with a confirmed diagnosis of CAP. The main group included 54 children who received basic therapy with additional administration of HFCWO procedures using modes 1 to 6 of the West device. The control group included 53 children who received BT only.
Thank you so much for introduction. My greetings, colleagues. My name is Dr. Daria Usenka. I am pediatrician. I am PhD. I work in the Department of Pediatrics, Odessa National Medical University. It's Ukraine, Odessa. So thank you so much for the opportunity to be present in Berlin International Conference. Despite very difficult times in our country due to war, we continue to work. We continue to save life of patients. We continue to live. So glory to Ukraine. Please demonstrate for colleagues my topic and video recording of presentation. It's possible, yes, to share with video recording.
Yes, I'm sharing.
Yeah, thank you.
Participants, greetings. I would like to thank the organizers for the opportunity to participate in the Berlin International Conference on Research in Life Science and Healthcare. My name is Dr. Daria. I am a PhD Associate Professor at the Department of Pediatrics of Odessa National Medical University. I am from Odessa, Ukraine. Allow me to present the topic clinical significance of high-frequency chest wall oscillation in the comprehensive treatment of community-acquired pneumonia in children. Respiratory diseases remain among the leading causes of morbidity in children for all age groups and represent a persistent challenge in pediatrics. Pneumonia is one of the most common manifestations of respiratory tract involvement and continues to pose a significant medical and social event in the 21st century. The need to explore new approaches to improving pulmonary function arises from ventilation and gas exchange impairments in children with community-acquired pneumonia. High-frequency chest wall oscillation presents new opportunities for enhancing pulmonary function in the patient population. Conventional therapy is often insufficient to fully correct pathological changes in respiratory mechanics and mucociliary clearance. High-frequency chest wall oscillation facilitates mucus mobilization through vibration and enhances both functional and volumetric parameters of the lungs for applying positive pressure compression, thereby improving pulmonary function. High-frequency chest wall oscillation is widely utilized in the treatment of cystic fibrosis, bronchiectasis, atelectasis, muscular dystrophy, cerebral palsy. The novelty of high-frequency chest wall oscillation method is supported by the inference of Ukrainian utility model patent methods for assessing the effectiveness of treatment for acute respiratory diseases in children. Study A to evaluate the effectiveness of high-frequency chest wall oscillation as adjunct to comprehensive therapy in children with community-acquired pneumonia. Objectives: to assess the impact of high-frequency chest wall oscillation on the dynamics of clinical symptoms and pulmonary function parameters in children with community-acquired pneumonia. Pulmonary function indicators evaluated. For example, volume parameters like vital capacity, forced vital capacity, and others. Flow parameters like peak expiratory flow and others. Study design: an open-label, comparative, prospective, randomized, single-center clinical trial evaluating the effectiveness of high-frequency chest wall oscillation as a part of comprehensive therapy for community-acquired pneumonia in children. The study was conducted at the Specialized Care Department for Older Children of the Odessa Regional Children's Clinical Hospital. Children were divided into groups. Main group consists of 54 patients. They received standard therapy in combination with high-frequency chest wall oscillation using the West Airway Clearance System, Model 105, manufacturer Hillero, USA. Control group consists of 53 patients that received standard therapy only according to local clinical protocol for treatment community-acquired pneumonia. Inclusion criteria: confirmed diagnosis of community-acquired pneumonia, moderate severity with uncomplicated clinical course, age between 6 to 16 years, and informed consent. Exclusion criteria: fever above 38 degrees, signs of severe intoxication, complicated clinical course of pneumonia, eczema and purulent skin conditions, lack of informed consent, manufacturer's contraindication to high-frequency chest oscillation like head or neck trauma, active bleeding with hemodynamic instability. Methods. All children underwent a comprehensive clinical evaluation, including medical history, physical exam, laboratory and instrumental investigations. Pulmonary function was assessed using spirometry in according to ATS Eurasia international standards. The study employed a hardware-based airway clearance method like airway clearance system. Oscillation modes were developed based on a child's age, body mass index, and constitutional type. The modes varied by 3 key parameters. For example, vibration frequency, compression pressure, and procedure duration. Each child received 10 high-frequency chest wall procedures. A test procedure was performed at the beginning of the treatment course to assess individual tolerance. Subsequent procedures were carried out with a gradual increase in vibration, frequency, pressure, and duration to ensure optimal effectiveness and safety. In the context of comprehensive therapy that included high-frequency chest wall oscillation method, the respiratory rate in children of the main group normalized more rapidly than in those of control group, as illustrated in the graph. By the end of the treatment course, dyspnea persisted in only 2.78% children in the main group compared to 15% in the control group. The high-frequency chest wall oscillation method significantly reduced the frequency of productive coughing. Starting from post-procedure, children in the main group exhibited a noticeable decrease in sputum production. Auscultation in children with community-acquired pneumonia revealed presence of fine moist drops. The application of high-frequency chest wall oscillation led to marked reduction of the moist drops by the 5th day of treatment in the main group. Analysis of pulmonary function test dynamics after 10 procedures with the West in the main group revealed a significant improvement in 5 key parameters. First parameter, vital capacity, forced vital capacity, forced expiratory volume in first second, and maximum expiratory flow and peak expiratory flow. In contrast, the control group demonstrated a less pronounced response to baseline therapy with improvement observed in only 2 parameters, vital capacity and maximal expiratory flow. A summary assessment of the effectiveness of high-frequency chest wall oscillation in the comprehensive treatment of community-acquired pneumonia in children is presented on this slide. In the main group, a more favorable clinical course was observed compared to the control group. Group included reduction in the intensity and productivity of cough, decreased the number of moist drops, improvement in pulmonary function. So, the results confirm the clinical effectiveness of high-frequency chest wall oscillation in children with community-acquired pneumonia as evidenced by improvement in clinical symptoms, enhancement of pulmonary function indicators, key advantages of high-frequency chest wall oscillation: simple and safe to perform, well tolerated by pediatric patients, compatible with other air clearance techniques. Given the potential for complications and adverse outcomes in community-acquired chest wall oscillation is recommended for routine use as a part of comprehensive therapy in pediatric patients. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Daria, for the fabulous presentation.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Anyone has any question? Okay. Let's move ahead towards the presentation. So our next presenter is Khadija Elmorshia, Faculty of Science, IBN, TOEFL University, Kenitra, Morocco. Topic: multidimensional predictors of quality of life in older adults with diabetes in urban slums. A WHO QOL BREF-based analysis. Background: quality of life is a critical yet understudied outcome in elderly individuals with diabetes, particularly in low resource settings. This study aimed to explore the predictors of overall and domain specific quality of life in older adults with diabetes living in urban slums in Casablanca, Morocco. Methods: a cross-sectional analysis was conducted on a sample of 100 diabetic individuals aged 60 years and older. Participants underwent a standardized geriatric assessment, including the mini nutritional assessment, geriatric depression scale, mini mental state examination, CADS index, Lawton IADL scale, rapid assessment of physical activity, and WHO QOL BREF. Four multivariable linear regression models were constructed to identify independent predictors of the physical health, psychological, social relationships, and environmental domains of the WHO QOL BREF.
Hello, I'm Khadija. Am I supposed to share my screen or you are going to?
Yeah, Khadija. Let me share your presentation or you will share on your...
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
The background study for the diabetes in particular suffer from acceleration or geriatrics. Blood sugar depression follow which part of the burden. Some environment is effect portion by housing, no social support. Yet there is research that explores how factors collectively affect quality of life, shape the quality of the food eating. That's why we conducted this study in Singapore. Our study has both I want but majority of
Thank you so much, Khadija, for the wonderful presentation.
Thank you for this opportunity. If you have
Thank you,
any
everyone.
questions, please don't hesitate.
Anyone has any question? Okay, no one. Okay, thank you everyone for your time and to present in our conference and such a wonderful presentations, and hope to see you in the future conferences. Please share the feedback of the conference. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
We are finished, yes?
Yes, yes. Everyone can leave.
Have a nice day. Good luck, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a nice day
Bye.
to you all. Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.